I feel it's time to explore the topic of this video now. I've definitely thought about this for some time. I believe when I would go to make this video, something would happen to prevent me from expressing the truth of this world we live in. I've been many years, most of my life actually, I've devoted to service of the light of the one divine prime creator of all that is, and to you. So my soul's blueprint is about empowerment. It's about the light, and it's about passion and joy and returning to the original frequency. So I am very careful. I'm very heartful in what I share publicly. There's so much fear mongering and terror being pumped into humanity's consciousness, individually and collectively. And it's my goal, my focus, to always be a reflection of who you are, which is God. You are the God frequency in a physical form. You are a limitless being playing in a very limited, finite dimension, reality, world. And that can get exhausting at times, because for those of us who were born remembering the truth, it can feel very stifling at times. So let's address the very obvious to those of you who have eyes to see it, ears to hear it. There's been this peak, this climax in this so-called frequency war. So I was given this message months and months ago. And I was told that I would be given the go-ahead when to share it. And today is the day. We are in January 2025. We've had to filter through and filter out a lot of things in the last few months. Then we had November, December, which really brought us into a peak of energy, especially around the solstice on the 21st of December. And in the last few weeks, especially in the last few days around the 13th of January, this full moon that we just passed yesterday, many people who are plugged in to the energies felt this wave of darkness, this very uncomfortable, painful fear blanket. It was like a blanket of fear was thrown over many, many people who have the sensitivity to actually feel that and to see what's going on. Now, the LA fires completely tie into this. And there's lots of brilliant information out there. There's also a lot of crazy information out there about the LA fires. All I want to say about that is there are no coincidences, okay? And those fires, they were not caused by Mother Nature. And I'm sure many of you here are well wise to that. I've spoken about the drones. Most of the drones are man-made governmental operations. Some of the drones, or some of the spheres, the orbs more like, are extraterrestrials making themselves known, but that's a whole other topic. So this frequency war has been going on since the dawn of time. Like, this is nothing new. And I know most of you wise souls connecting here in this community, you know it's nothing new. But I do feel we need extra vigilance and reminders that a lot of the thoughts you've been thinking, especially the very heavy, dense ones that are telling you that you're worthless or that it's never going to change, that these thoughts are not your own. We know now, and again, those of us who are wide, we've known for a long time, that the new warfare, it's consciousness. And there was a study released that showed that they could convince a bunch of soldiers. They put this thought into their head using wavelengths and frequencies and tones and sounds that said, "This is Allah, put down your arms, put down your weapons." And the soldiers believed that Allah was talking to them, and they all dropped and did what they were told. So there's been a lot of experiments. There's been a lot of scientific trifling, and this has reached a peak since the pandemic. It's gone way off the scales of what's balanced. So one point I want to make before I move forward is always know that the universe keeps a balance. She keeps her books in balance. She keeps a tally on things. So when this wave of darkness comes over you, there's always a bigger, stronger wave or equal wave of light to match it, okay? It's never one or the other. And you see, the trick for humanity is we are not great at knitting things together. We've been living in a program of this or that, black or white, male, female, yin, yang. It's all being split in two. And it's like, pick a side, pick a side. And in order for us to truly continue our ascension, we have to be willing to knit together, to integrate, to interweave all these energies and frequencies, and to bring them all into the love energy, the love frequency. And we have some work to get there yet. But many healers and those in true service, authentic service to humanity and to the light, to the God frequency, the one source creator of all that is, we are being pummeled and put through our paces with these highs and lows and highs and lows. And I guess my main message, if you take anything from this video, my main encouragement to you is to remember who you are. Remember that you are a child of God. You are of God. You are a fractal of the creator of your inner being. And you are whole unto yourself. And you do not need to consent to these waves of fear. This blanket of fear that was spread out wide in the last few days. Some will say it's also connected to the fog, this mysterious fog that's been sent around in all different parts of the world. And apparently this fog, what I'm hearing is that it releases heavy metals. So as human beings, heavy metals, we don't do well with heavy metals, right? It can bring on like a poisoned effect, or it could bring on vomiting or sickness or all kinds of uncomfortable illnesses and influenzas and viruses and everything. So they're really pulling out all the stops to distract us. And that's another thing. All this, the war narratives, the fires, like there's so much going on in the crazy wide world right now. And a lot of it is a distraction tool to pull you off where your focus and consciousness needs to be, which is on yourself, your community, and in the frequency of love. And fear and love, and I've spoken about this many times throughout my 10, 11 years on YouTube, fear and love cannot exist in the same space. They're polarized frequencies. So you're either in one or the other. They can't touch each other. You have to choose. Am I living in love or am I living in fear? Fear is being pumped into the consciousness in many different ways. And sometimes it's that you walk through a certain neighborhood or a certain place and you can feel the anxiety, you can feel the heaviness in that space, in that environment. And as you leave it, you can actually begin to take that on. And it's the same with show me your company and I'll tell you who you are. When you're around certain people, you begin to take on their frequencies and energies if you don't keep a check-in with your own self. And really, the reason this message is coming up to light now and for it to be discussed is because we have to take the fear out of the shadow. The spiritual community has a tendency to love and light everything, to stick a happy stamp over the problem and run terrified from the shadow and from looking at the shadow. And unfortunately, anything that you're ignoring and that you are running from, you're actually giving power to, you're leaking energy to. So if you're running from a certain problem right now, you're actually giving it a lot of your personal energy and personal power. You think you're not. Your ego mind is like, just keep running, just don't look back. But when you are in a state of love, you can stop and pause and look the shadow into the eyes and say, dear one, you are simply disconnected from the light. You're simply in an amnesiac state. You've forgotten who you are. And you can be the mirror that reflects that light. Now, there's two ways of going about this. You can do what I just said. That requires mastery. I wouldn't recommend stopping and facing someone who's chasing you physically in life, right? We have to honor the physical limitations of our physical reality. But energetically, and even that, energetically, that requires a certain level of frequency mastery, frequency, years and years of practice and living within the state of love and facing those burdens and facing those challenges with the eyes of love from the God self, from the God frequency. Not everybody is there yet. And people who attempt to do it and fail, it's only because you're still learning, you're still processing. The other way of looking at it is, if something is being placed upon you, it's crushing you with anxiety, right? It's like a ball of tension in your chest. And you know that is just, and it's an outside fear. And maybe it's affecting you because you watched a horror film, or maybe you listened to a group of colleagues at work that put some fear into you, that it was a very negative, dense, heavy conversation, and you absorbed some of that. Whatever the cause, the effect is the same. Your frequency is lowered, you're feeling low, you're feeling scared, or maybe you're just feeling numb or apathetic or disconnected. It doesn't matter. The point is, you're not at optimal frequency. You're not living in alignment. You're not flowing with life the way you want to be. You're buying into this blanket of darkness and fear, and you're being used as a source of energy, of fuel, to fuel something that you do not consent to. So you have a right to say, I don't consent. I do not consent to any lower frequency or energy or consciousness entering my space or field. If it's not of love, you're not welcome here. Go back into the light. And then it's up to that energy and entity with its free will to choose where it goes and what it does. But you see, the world we live in, their tactics are subtle, and they're so interwoven into our social structures, into our systems. We have schooling. I mean, from the time we're very young, most people are born into a hospital, a clinical space where it begins, right? We have all kinds of cruel and cold things that happen in that space. The natural birthing situation experience is treated in a very cold clinical fashion. So then we have school from there, which is do as you're told. You're not empowered. Your opinion doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you want to do or what your heart is pulling you to do or where you want to play. You're in school, you have to do what the teacher tells you. Then we go to college, it's the same. Then you get a job, it's the same. You got to do what the big boss man says. So this continuous program of you have no say. It's such a lie. It's a fallacy. It's a myth. And this is why people are waking up all over the place now and going, hang on a minute. I've been told my whole life to shut up and put up. And that is just the biggest illusion. It's the biggest fancy dress party. And people play along. People even kind of know it. And they'll still go to the fancy dress party and play along and jump through the hoops and do as they're told and get all the, go to this school, go to that college, get this degree, get this piece of paper, get married, that's another piece of paper. Like literally people will play along. They'll dress the part. They'll take on the ego persona and they will march along proudly and say, yes, my name is so-and-so and I report to so-and-so and this is my identity. And they will hang on to that identity with sheer life and grit because it would be too scary to stop and go, this isn't real. This isn't who I am. This was a set of rules I was handed, that's been handed down generation after generation after generation. And I was told if I didn't follow the rules, I didn't get to play. I didn't get to go to the party. So many of us, many people just got tired of trying to find a belonging for themselves. And instead of not going to the party, they just put on the party fancy dress outfit and pretended to be something they're not, and off they went. And people like myself, we've been pushed out onto the fringe of society because I never went to the party. I didn't follow the rules. And it was hard. I'm not recommending it. I'm not saying go do that. But what I will say is, I'm glad I didn't go. Even though there's many sacrifices and empty holes in my life where a lot of people would say, and I've had it said to me, Aoibheann, you went the hard road. You could have just gone the easy road and put on the fancy dress outfit, and put on the wig and show up. I couldn't do it, guys. I couldn't do that because it wasn't real. It wasn't true. It wasn't honest. My soul as a little girl, as a little kid would look around and go, oh my God, look at all these adults playing these roles like their life depended on it, because in their ego mind, their life did depend on it. And by the way, I don't judge anybody who did that. Life is complicated. It's an absolute minefield, this living thing as a human being. So I don't judge anybody who just said, here, feck it, I'm just going to get on with it. Absolutely not. And the older I get, the the more I understand why people felt they had to do that. But look, to wrap this up, be very careful the fearful thoughts that you buy into. Ask yourself, is this thought my own? Does this belong to me? Is this a genuine concern or anxiety or worry right now? Or am I just repeating old programs? Am I just tapping into a frequency of fear that's been sent out to distract me, to knock me off my righteous path, and to pull me away from love? Because when we have that awareness, we have true power. And I'm here to remind you who you are. You are a powerful, sovereign being. You don't have to play the games that your soul knows are not beneficial to you. And another thing, songs can be sent into a frequency, into a wave, into a wavelength. You know, you can have old songs from the time you were 22 and life was blissful and you were in love, or a song that reminds you of that holiday, that vacation where everything in your life was dandy. And that can be used as well. Nostalgia can be used to create a drop in your energy, a distraction from the present, from what's actually happening. And like I said, with all that dark, it's like the winter, the sun comes up again, and there's always a backup wave of intense light. You'll notice that when we have these waves of darkness, like the full moon we've just gone through there on the 13th yesterday, it was really intense. There is this beautiful surge of the God frequency to remind us, connect us, and lift us back up. So it's just about not buying into it, because there has been a lot of people saying that they've had some of the darkest thoughts that they never like had in the past. They're very optimistic people. I'm just seeing this very strong, and I thought it was just me over the weekend, and then I realized no, there's definitely there's a conflict, there's a battle, there's a push-pull going on in the energy at the moment. And again, if we can not see it as this or that, but this and that, and bring it all together, integrate instead of segregate, and come back to love. Like, I just got so exhausted from all these racing, anxious thoughts that I was like, what are this isn't even my stuff, like. And I just had to go, you know what, okay. Calling in the Christ consciousness. You can try this, it's very good. Calling in the Christ consciousness, the light Christ. You can call it Jesus, you can call it Yeshua, it doesn't matter, it's the Christ consciousness. Mother, Father, God, please remove all negative lower frequencies from my mind, body, and soul. I do not consent to this. I send it back into the light. Go back into the light and remember who you are. Return me to my original blueprint of love, of God, of the God force within and without. Let only love permeate the shield. You can do that. If you feel protection is, some people feel, that's buying into it. You can go the other way, and you can just imagine this big ball of golden light inside your chest, and you grow it and grow it and grow it and grow it and grow it right the way out into your aura, and you just push the darkness out, and you say, I am the light. I am the light. I am the light. The light in me recognizes the light in you. And that's why I always say that, because I am the light, and so are you. And these little tricks of this reality that's used as a currency, our energy, our thoughts, our beautiful God-given frequency, when you see them through the eyes of love and from that higher dimensional way, you understand that it's just so silly, and that it has no power over you, and that this anxiety is not real, it's not true, and it's not who you really are. So why would you entertain it? And why would you waste your valuable life energy giving it another second? So try that. Again, you can do the I don't consent thing. There's so many different ways. I think it's better if you use your own words. That's just me. But you can go back in this video and use the words I use. I find that very effective. You can go out in nature and do it, hug a tree, put your hands on the earth. I did that earlier. I went for a walk, put my hands on the wet grass, and I just said, all this heaviness, it does not belong to me. It's not who I am. I'm a light, optimistic being, and I return it back into the earth to be transmuted back into love and into nothingness, because really it's a false, fake reality and it's an illusion. So remember who you are. The light in me, as always, recognizes the love and light in you.